family Garvey, and we're back with another DIY video today. If you're new here today, I am a mom who loves thrifting, homemaking, and a good DIY, and I am full on fall right now, even though it is still like 100 degrees in Florida. Today actually was super rainy and kind of felt like fall. The house smells amazing after doing this DIY today. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. My toddler was super helpful with this one, so you can thank Gideon for the successes of today.
So what's great about this one is you probably already have these things in your pantry. So the main things that you're going to need are flour, salt, and water. I will link in the description below the blog post where I found this recipe. However, I did make a few modifications and I will let you know those. So all you're going to need is 1 cup of flour and then a 1/2 cup of salt and a 1/2 cup of water. This is the recipe that was on the blog. And then we also used a ton of different spices, and the recipe had slightly different variation in the spices, but we just used what we had. We used a little bit of pumpkin pie spice and then the entire rest of our cinnamon, some cloves, and some ginger. So Gideon, my helper today, just turned 3 years old and he loves helping me in the kitchen. So I would totally recommend this one for anyone who has children or grandchildren. I know I have a lot of grandmas watching. It could have definitely been a faster process. However, it did probably take us about 1.5 hours just because everything takes a bit longer when you're doing it with kids. Let me know in the comments below if you think you'd be up for trying this one and how yours turns out. You will want to make sure that everything is nicely mixed before you go ahead and add the water. So the color with the cinnamon and all of those nice brown spices was looking really good, except the recipe did call for using a little bit of orange food coloring. So I mixed up some red and some yellow that we had. No one is going to be eating these, but you could probably go ahead and skip this if you didn't have it on hand or you're especially conscious of avoiding artificial coloring. I've specifically been trying to make all of my projects this month and my recipes this month out of things that we already have at home in an effort to spend as little as possible during the month of September. Some people call this shelf-tember. I don't know if you've heard of the term, but this was a great recipe because we already had everything, and I have a few more crafts scheduled for this month, which will also not require anything from the store. And so if you're interested in that, I would love if you would subscribe and like this video to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. So we did get really excited, ready to roll it out, and then realized that it was just a little bit too sticky and it would have been impossible for these to keep their shape. So we added about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more, of flour and then just kneaded that into there until it became a little bit more hard. You could also throw this into the refrigerator. We just wanted to get this project done while Benjamin was napping, and this did the trick for us. So here comes the really cute part. So we had this actually from a little set that I use to cut up some of Gideon's vegetables into little shapes. And so this little leaf was part of that set, but I know that they do sell larger leaves, and I would recommend that because this process took a long time, but I really like how sweet and dainty they ended up. So if that's the look you're going for, I can link these down below. It is part of a larger set, and I'll see if I can find some other ones on Amazon and link those down below for y'all as well. So as you can see, we started doing some other shapes that we had just because we were getting way too many leaves and it was taking way too long. But hey, we got ahead on our Christmas decor, I think, with some stars, some gingerbread men, and even some hearts, maybe for Valentine's Day. Now this part does require a bit of a steady hand, so I didn't let Gideon work on the actual cutouts that we had, but he did punch a bunch of holes in some little scraps that we left over, and you'll see that he styled these into his kitchen later in this video. You do want to think about where you want your string to go through. So whether it's the top or the bottom of the leaf, or if you want 1 or 2. This was totally coincidental, but does anyone else make a little wish when they see 1111? But you're going to put these into the oven at 200 degrees, and you're going to leave them for about 2 to 3 hours. It just depends on how thick yours ended up being. Now don't worry when you take these out and they are very white and look kind of burnt. All you're going to do is take a little bit of oil. You can use vegetable oil or canola oil, whatever you have on hand. And you're just going to brush a tiny little bit onto these leaves and onto whatever else you have made. You will want to flip them over and get the other side. And shameless plug, while you're doing this monotonous work, it would be a great time to throw on my thrifting playlist. I did want to mention something that I would have done differently. So you'll see that these leaves, they turned out really well. They're tiny enough. And then the ones that Gideon made were also pretty small and really, really thin. But these over here were just a little bit thicker, I think. And so their back of them had just a little bit of softness. However, after leaving them out overnight, they did harden up just fine. But I probably could have left these in the oven a little bit longer. And now is the exciting part when this banner will really start to take shape. So I decided to use white thread first, but I realized it just didn't look so great. So I opted for this kind of golden orange color and really like the way it looks. I would recommend not having too long of a piece of thread. Maybe just keep it shorter and then tie them together, because it can easily get tangled if it's too long and just get really confusing in there. And then I also recommend keeping it down on the table flat so that you can really clearly see where you should be tying that knot, and then it doesn't get unevenly spaced. Please let me know I'm not the only one whose husband just has the funniest reactions to my DIYs. I'll let you know what he said once I get these hung up. So I decided to add these into my kitchen, and I went ahead and just used tape since it's hidden under there. You're not going to see it, and I didn't want to put any like nails into this area. Since this is super light, this hasn't budged since I put it up. To get it adjusted just perfectly, just pull the thread through the tape while it's stuck on the wall, and you can adjust it to your heart's content. Sometimes I like to see if my husband notices my DIYs. This one took him a full day and a half maybe, and I had to actually tell him that it was there. He was so funny and said, "Well, I'm glad you told me. I never would have seen it." The man is 6'2", and I guess he can't see under our cabinets. If you enjoyed this one, I will link at the end of today's video last week's, which included some DIY pumpkins.
I wish you could smell my house right now. It smells amazing, and I love the way that this project looks in my kitchen, and I actually have a few more. You saw how many I made. I made way too many, but I'm excited to put these into other places in my home as well to get all styled up for fall. So make sure you're subscribed and you hit that bell so you can be notified when I upload next week more fall content. All right, guys, I hope you have a blessed week. I will see you all next week. Bye.